Well, hi there. Good morning. Welcome to Office Hours, where we answer your media and production questions 7 days a week. Alexander Knight from Port Coquitlam, British Columbia, is our reader for today. Alexander, what's up first?
First question comes from the QR code from Rick Combs in Columbia, Tennessee. What is the best and least expensive external mic for an iPhone? It will be used to pick up conversations around a conference table. I understand it is not ideal, but it should be better than the built-in phone mic.
Alexander?
I don't understand why you want to do this, because I can tell you, yes, you can get a USB external microphone. There's, you can get like a Blue Yeti, put it into Omni, pick up pattern mode. It might be marginally better than the iPhone, but this is not a good idea. And if you don't have the budget to do this right, my suggestion would be to find a local rental house, just rent a multi-channel audio interface, rent some SM58s on short little tabletop mic stands and put that directly in front of the people so you can record discrete audio. This is it's not going to sound good.
Alex?
The question is what you're using it for. If you're going to transcribe it or you just want to take notes or whatever, I agree that just putting your phone down, you'll get enough. I mean, like if you're just trying to transcribe it, I don't think it's going to make any difference. If you are going to actually use it for something, any mic can be a mic for your phone with this. So this is a XLR converter to USB. So this is the Shure, and I always look at it. I can take my glasses off.
MVX2U.
MVX2U, so this is you plug this into any mic that you want to use. Then you have USB-C to your phone. I'm assuming you have a relatively new iPhone. So so this will do it. That turns one mic. So now it's any mic that you want to look at. Now, of course, I would probably do what Alex was talking about, which is that I would probably bring in some small interface and then interface it with the phone. The phone will just see if you've got an 8-channel interface. The phone will go, "Oh, I have an 8-channel interface. I will, use it that way." So that's another way to do it. Now, if you want to go super, it's not the least expensive, but if you want to go super swanky, think about the Voyage. The Voyage ambisonic mic. You can get a USB. It'll plug right in. It'll get everybody all the way around, so it'll sound like everyone's talking all around you. So this is one of the Voyage mics here. So you can see that this has got
best and least expensive. Alex, read the question.
Best and least expensive. Now it's best.
You can't have best and least. That's an oxymoron. So
it's right there in print.
I don't care, but I'm just saying this one for $1,000 will plug right into your iPhone and get you every angle, and it'll feel like you're just sitting there listening to everyone all around you, as if you were sitting in the middle of the table. It'll be amazing.
Good grief. Leave it to Alex to go overboard.
Well, anything that's worth doing is worth overdoing.
Chris?
So, Rick, if you have an iPhone, there's a chance you have access to a second one. I understand low budget. These other guys don't. So what you may consider is, one, if you're pretty close, the iPhone might do okay just on its own. The microphones in the iPhone are getting pretty amazing. But if it's a roundtable discussion, you might have to be wide enough to see everybody, and now you've lost proximity. Put a second iPhone, hit record, just lay it in the middle of the desk. It'll do a pretty good job, and you can slap the two together in Final Cut later.
Another thing that you may want to consider with if you're using voice mode on the iPhone, the Voice Memos app, is if you're here in the phone, down in the corner, there's that's a transcribe button that's in the new iOS, but I can't click on the buttons because I'm phone mirroring, but it's either this button down here or this button up here allows you to turn on what's called speech enhance mode. And so if you are in a room where there is a little bit of noise or it'll sweeten it a little bit. So again, if you end up going with the super, super low budget of the phone that you already have without anything plugged into it, there are things that you can do to make it a little more intelligible. Alexander?
Yeah, and just one other thing too, two things in the voice memos settings. If you're going to use that app, it's not turned on by default. You're going to want to set the audio quality from lossy to lossless. That would also greatly improve the audio quality of the recording. And actually, I just wanted to mention that Mickey in the chat, I like his idea. So if you had to do this, and I have done this for dictation, but he was suggesting just holding the phone really, really close to your mouth and just passing it around. So if you actually just talking to the bottom of the phone like this and pass it around, you actually would get better audio quality if you did that. But Again, sticking a mic in the middle of the room, not great.
Next question.
This next question comes from Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York. In Final Cut Pro, how can I change the color of subjects in the video? I don't want to change the color of the entire shot.
Chris.
So Zach, I've prepared a little demonstration here for you. So here's some Final Cut, and here's a little shot from Adobe stock stuff. So I'm going to take this clip, I'm going to hit the letter E, and I'm going to put it down in the timeline. And then I'm going to copy it. I'm going to rewind and hit Option V to make another copy of it. Now I'm going to turn off the top copy, and I'm going to turn on the bottom copy and go Command 6, and I'm going to just pull the color out of it, okay? Then I'm going to turn on the top copy again using the letter V, and over here in masks and keying, I'm going to use the magnetic mask. You know, take this guy. Now, this is a user interface that Final Cut added, I don't know, a year or two ago. A lot of the plugins now, you can just drag it right into the thing and see that it's doing its best to sort of grab this guy. And I found that if you just jiggle it around, I'm looking at his left elbow there. So that's pretty good. And then I can take this little plus button here and sort of just paint in and go, yeah, get some more of this. And you don't have to be super precise. Then you hit the Analyze button, and it goes forward, and then it's going to go backwards. And when it's done, I hit Done, and I rewind, and there's your shot. So the background is black and white, and the foreground is color. Really great thing. Actually, I did that for this shot on a project that I did for a client recently. And then doing that, I can now go in and color correct the foreground dude, and I can adjust how I colorize the black and white. I might want to do it more high contrast. Works really good. Magic Mask in the mask and keying section.
All right. Where else? I got to take a minute here. Where else do you get a custom baked demo when you ask a question? Live, almost live, like minutes ahead of time. It's talent. Next question.
Another QR code question from Wayne Netter in Mumbai, Australia. I settled on H2R Graphics for web overlay on my Director Mini for upcoming golf live stream of 24 teams. Any other choices? Team name, 4 players, and perhaps a sponsor logo. I want to delegate to a volunteer. I'm fixed on first par, 3rd hole.
Alex?
Yeah, I think H2R Graphics can definitely get you off the ground. If you're looking at something that's a little bit more custom that you're going to be able to work with is, what we use for this show is SPX. And it'll take a little work to get SPX off the ground. It's a little bit more groundwork to get it done. But then it's kind of a set and forget. And it also, like H2R Graphics, also has an HTML5 option so that you'd be able to have it there. But we've done a lot of like data in display process. You can really do a lot with it. And Tuomo, who is the founder of SPX, is very active in our community, so there's someone you can talk to as well. But I think H2R Graphics can definitely get you started. I don't know if it's going to have the customization that you want to really build around a specific sport. So that'd be the only thing I would think about.
Next question.
This one's from Andy Kokendorfer in Viera, Florida, USA. Has anyone run into Zoom DLP tech? It automatically redacts text in video, audio, and message text based on set policies. Spooky.
So if you're in your Zoom settings and you go to your account settings and account management, you can enable data loss prevention. And basically what that means is that if you're in a meeting that has the data loss prevention box checked, then messages, chats, and things like that are getting removed from the video. This piece about it actually redacting text in the stream is something that I hadn't heard of before. Alex?
Yeah, no, I was just like, I haven't used it. I just think it sounds crazy, but it looks like it's analyzing the, and figuring that out. We'll have to, we'll have to look at that a little bit more. It looks really interesting.
And the other thing is, even if you go, it's enabled for all accounts. If you go into that account settings account management and then account settings at the main Zoom level, when you enable it for your organization, by default, the setting is that an external, if you're in a meeting with an external party that has data loss prevention enabled, that it'll take the chat and any files that are passed back and forth and kind of zap those as soon as the meeting is over. So remember it's not just a set it and forget it where you're going to flick that switch and then all of a sudden, no media is going to be saved. There are a couple more steps, and it's worth digging into if you are concerned about some sort of data in Zoom. They have some of the, I think, most daunting settings next to maybe a Salesforce in terms of how deep you can go and customize for your whole organization. And if you want to say, for example, that if you don't want a specific piece of data to live after the meeting, there's probably a setting in there to do it. But give yourself an afternoon because there's a lot. Chris?
Yeah, so first of all, a point of clarification. This says it redacts text in video and audio. So are you saying it'll like bleep words?
That's how I interpret the question, which is...
Okay, that's crazy. So back to your Zoom comment, CJ, we recently did that on our enterprise Zoom settings because there was the fear that the auto transcription, all the AI stuff that the Zoom does, there was some concern that possibly some of the after meeting chatter, client logs out, oh my goodness, this is going to be she's a real problem, would somehow accidentally get emailed to somebody. One of our producers was worried, but she had read something about that happening to somebody, and she contacted me, and she goes, we're turning off all that AI stuff in Zoom. I'm like, okay, fine, we'll turn it off.
Alex?
I read somewhere that somebody gets into their favorite thing to do is get into the meeting early and then just say a bunch of crazy stuff.
Hi, my name is Chris Fenwick, and today we're going to talk about all the aliens living in Antarctica. So let me give you my presentation. And the thing is, if it's the first thing in the meeting, that's what the meeting is called. Fenwick talks about aliens in Antarctica. And we're also going to touch on third quarter
such a good way to
progress.
Troll that.
And I had for a while I just wanted to see, I'm curious and I want to know, what does Zoom AI Companion actually, like, what do the summaries look like? What does it do? And so I turned it on for some of my meetings, but I made it my default to be on. So then I used a Zoom to catch up. My wife and I caught up with some friends who live in Park Ridge, Illinois. And so they're a couple hours away. And then we had, it was a happy hour conversation for 4 hours, meandering in and out of all sorts of crazy topics. The AI Companion, recap of that was hilarious because it was trying to make, business sense of things that you would talk about with your friends around a campfire. And it was a riot.
That's funny.
Next question.
This one comes from Vic Hernandez in Springfield, Missouri. What kind of lights are used in this video?
All right, Alexander, what do you think?
I don't know, but let's take a look at it. So it's these ones, the band's Dirty Loops, which, by the way, Vic, thank you. I've never heard of these guys. I'm going to have to check them out. But yeah, you can see the lights behind them there. And the first thing when I was looking at these, there's a good shot of it right there. The first thing that came to mind is man, that really looks like a 1950s era cinema light. But when I look closely and how small the bulb looks, something tells me that these might be custom fabricated. I don't know if that's actually a new old stock light. That might be custom made for them. I looked in the description of the video. I didn't see any information about what was actually used or where they shot this, but that's just a suspicion. I can't say with certainty.
Chris?
I recently had a good friend pass away, and in his honor, I will say, Alexander, bulbs you plant in the ground, it's a lamp. It's called a lamp. Phil used to say that to me every time I called it a bulb. He goes, nope, it's not a bulb, it's a lamp. You plant bulbs in the ground. So anyway, thank you, Phil.
Right up there with Hayes for horses. Farm data.
Farm humor.
Kind of.
Next question.
Oh, by the way, Mickey says it looks like Film Gear tungsten power beams modified without the Fresnel and grill.
Aha.
See that? Go. Just got to wait long enough. You got to stall. Talk about hay is for horses before Mickey will put an answer in.
Next question.
Zach Jeffers in Spokane, Washington asks, now that we're more comfortable with remote production and live streaming is more possible than ever, what types of events and niches do you think could benefit from live streaming to the world that don't currently utilize this?
Alex?
Well, I think that one of the things that really is that we have pushed up against, and I think that it's a big business. We haven't had time to, in my day job, I haven't had time to exploit the opportunity, which is that there is that I think that there are so many places where it's a expo-like thing. So whether it's a farmer's market or an expo or whatever, we've just grazed across the surface of that with what we've done with NAB. And the reason that we're trying to miniaturize the process and make it just able to do with an iPhone, an extra screen, or make it really, really easy is because I think that if you got to a point where you had 3 or 4 people out there covering an event and it wasn't a huge crew and it wasn't complicated and didn't require a host at every location, that you would end up being able to bring an entirely new value to the expo. It would increase the value. I don't think it's going to have less people want to go to the expo. It's going to have more people want to go to the expo because they'll see how cool it is. If anyone's ever been to the Pennsylvania State Farm Show, you'd want to go every year. So shooting video of tractors is always a good thing. Anyway, I haven't been there since I was 7, but when I was 7, so great. Anyway, so but what I would say is that is, I feel like something that should happen at every expo, but at a much bigger scale than what we did. And, if we figure out ways to get the bandwidth better, and I think that what unlocks that is, the Verizon or T-Mobile or AT&T private 5G. I think that if you start to combine those things with, easy acquisition systems, I think that you could very much, that's a business that you could build your whole business around, is just doing expos. And once they saw what you were doing, I think once expos saw what we were doing, the problem with the one we did at NAB is it was very effective, just $100,000 a rig. Like it can't be that. So I think that figuring out how to squeeze that down into something, I think could potentially be a pretty big business.
And what we were able to, what we unlocked, or like you said, just kind of skimmed the surface on at NAB, made you think like you've stepped into a new form of coverage. Like nobody's done that where there's a panel and a group of people that isn't stressed out, isn't sweating, isn't on 2 hours of sleep trying to run around the show floor. They're incredibly smart, technical people who have the...
Also, they can be customized. Like when you send one person out, they know what they know, and they're asking it. But the main thing is you can swap that panel out every hour and just cover one vertical that you were, so we could go to if we evolved it for NAB, for instance, you could go to the grip area and just have grips, asking questions. Because that's what you want some beginners, but what you really want are the people who really know stuff. We learn as viewers when you have the people who really know stuff asking their questions, and you're kind of like around you're still in the kiddie table if you don't know how to do that, but you get to listen to the adults talk about real things, and that, like when we went to, there's a section where we went to ProPrompter, and Courtney is in the panel asking ProPrompter about their prompters. Now this is a guy that has patents and an Emmy for prompter design, asking questions. That's the kind of conversation that you want to have. You can't have that at every booth when you have a person there. Like you need to have, by having it over Zoom, you go, okay, let's make sure this person's in here for that one, and let's make sure this person's in here for this one, and you end up with a much smarter conversation related to those things. And that can be, again, like my dream would be to, in a farmer's market, I keep on talking about that, would be to have like Alice Waters and Jamie Oliver and Thomas Keller all like in a Zoom going around to a farmer's market asking questions. That's what you want to hear, and can you get them all to show up at the farmer's market? No. Can you get them to give you an hour? Maybe,
It's the best hive mind ever.
That would be the best hive mind ever. Yeah, exactly. Walking around through a thing and discussing amongst themselves and that kind of thing.
And it is cool that Zoom has enabled a lot of those things. If you're around this afternoon, 2 p.m. Pacific, Andy Carluccio and Jonathan Cocatillo are going to be with Alex talking about Zoom graphics toolkits. So hang around to check that out. It's going to take place in a Zoom meeting somewhere. So look out in Discord for where we're going to have that. Next question.
This question comes from a guy named CJ Covell in Cincinnati, Ohio. What's a great way to help an exceptionally talented artist connect with the world through streaming?
Alex, Cookie, for your thoughts.
What kind of artist?
Maybe cookies.
Cookies. Oh man, we were talking about this before the show. So, are we allowed to talk about this, Fenwick?
Absolutely. And for the back end crew, once you go to the cookies, I will not cut away to myself, so you can trust that this is legitimate B-roll. But I'm just going to slowly page through these.
Fenwick has is it a niece? Did you say?
It's a niece, yeah.
Does outstanding cookies. Look at these cookies.
Crazy.
I mean, when he started talking, I was like, okay, she does cookies. And then when he started showing them, I was like, she does cookies. Like, these are incredible cookies.
These dinosaur cookies.
Now, people are probably wondering why we're talking about this on office hours. The reason is that she doesn't like making the cookies. So she doesn't like, and I don't think that she doesn't like making the cookies, because obviously someone that creative likes doing the artwork. It just does. But the problem with cookies is you have to make so many. Like, if you turn into a business, you're sitting there making 20 ghosts or 20 whatever. And so,
Toy Story.
Toy Story. Look at this. I mean, incredible artwork.
Insane.
So my recommendation is to build a YouTube channel and show people, like, do little time lapses of her building these out, or even just regular speed ones. She probably does them relatively quickly. I think that if she did this, if she produced a cookie a week, well, I would say if she was willing to do it every day and do a cookie a day, she'd have 1 million followers in a year. Like, I just think that this is like right up the alley of TikTok and YouTube and everything else. I mean, there's not a lot of things I do that are right up that alley, but this is right up that alley. People love this stuff.
Is it a hamburger or is it a cookie?
Oh my gosh,
I can't tell.
So good. It's so good. Yeah, I mean, someone with that much creativity, and if it's not something she wants to turn into a bakery, there's a lot of people that would be really excited about.
So, Alex, you want to show your end of the world ultra high end version of how to do this? Because Alex, he tends to go over the top, and in this instance, he's going to go over the shoulder.
I said do over the shoulder, and Fenwick was not quite clear about what that meant. So I did this.
Yeah, because I don't understand what over the shoulder means. Go ahead.
No, but everyone give one, like, do another thing. It wasn't Fenwick. It was somebody who was like, no, over the shoulder. So this is what we did. This is 17 years ago. So this is a long time. Whoops, that's the wrong button. So this is so what we have here is, this is the original red, actually. And then we put this on an easy jib. These easy jibs were amazing, and they don't make them anymore. It's such a bummer because it took 15 minutes to set up. This is the old Pixelcore office long ago, and my cousin Brad does educational technology, and so we were building some examples of chemistry experiments that kids could watch the videos and then do them. And the idea was, how do you build the how-tos? And so anyway, so what we did is this camera feeds into that monitor, so that what she can do is look at it and put her hands out. And after a little bit of time, you got used to kind of looking up. What it did is it kept her from putting her head over it, looking down. She could just look up and put her hands out and do it that way. But it could be something that you didn't have to do it that way. You could also put it up here and go over the shoulder. But this was nice because it was like right over top. And all of this technology has gotten so much better. The little micros didn't exist back then. So, you could build a rig. And this was all like, the reason we did it with a jib, by the way, is so that we could move it around. So we get different angles. When you put the big power of a jib when you do training is not that you're going to do big jib moves. It's that you have a floating camera that you can put anywhere you need quickly. Let's put it over here. Let's put it over here. So they're all static shots, but we're able to adjust and fly with it and get other angles and so on and so forth. Given how good she is at repeating things too, you could do them from different angles, and there's a bunch of things that you could play with there, but a couple micros and a micro, but possibly a couple of them with close-ups of, you could do all kinds of things. But I think that, again, when you see someone with that much artistic skill,
she's incredible,
and food, like those things, that crossover, if you look at trends on YouTube and TikTok and everything else, massive. And I there was someone we worked with that was, I think she was in Ukraine, and she was doing needlework, right? I think she made it was a lot of money every month just doing the needlework, just the videos, not the needlework itself, the videos. She definitely was making a solid. This is before the Ukraine troubles. This is, and I think that they look so good that I think it would make sense to turn it into a business. But if she doesn't want to do them over and over and over again, either hire somebody else to do them, but they won't do them as good. That's the problem. Then it'll make her upset.
She's
or
really
just
gifted.
just show people, like my sister-in-law does Etsy, but she made a bunch of stuff for Etsy, but she doesn't want to make the bag 100 times. So she sells the designs, and she has a book on how to be successful at Etsy, and she makes a lot of money doing that too. so that's something to think about.
I'd also like to point out that there's much more low budget ways to do it if you wanted to do it. And Alex doesn't think this would work, but
it won't.
It'll work fine for most stuff.
Okay, sure. Like it won't, it's the thing is that a little bit of investment, not a red, like the little micros, the little black magic micros, are the thing that would give you the most bang for your buck.
There's definitely a whole genre. I watch a lot of woodworking videos and a lot of construction videos, and there are the people that put a lot more weight on the video production quality. And I get it. It does make sense. It becomes a different art that you participate in. But I got to tell you, Alex, I've watched so much footage of people framing houses with a GoPro on their baseball cap.
I'm just saying that it will get more views faster if it's shot well, because the big thing is that people are now, the trend right now on YouTube is to watch it on a big screen, is to watch it at home, and so when it goes on a big screen, it looks different than watching it on your phone, sure. And that's and so you want to, and the problem is that the base level, a lot of people that you see have a big following. They got that following when the base level wasn't as high. If you're getting into YouTube now, the quality of the video is so much higher that to break in, you just have to get to a minimum level that is different than it was 10 years ago.
And if she's not going to get sponsored by somebody who's making, by King Arthur for flour or whoever's making little piping bags, there's also I think you might have touched on a little bit, but selling a design or selling a way that you can kind of do it yourself. There's a tremendous ceramics artist that is in Cincinnati and Findlay Market downtown, and they make these little beautiful these little line drawings of animals, but then they have it into a mold that now they can press it into plates and cups and bowls, and so there's a whole. She could definitely be building, if she has little tools that she's built for that. There could be a little kit of the tools that she uses for these things, even if she's buying them in bulk and selling them people will buy that stuff, relative. But even just the advertising, you get up enough followers, let's say you get 100,000 views, you get $4 per thousand, so it's it's $400 per video just out of the gate, so that's something to think about as well. If you are watching us on YouTube, welcome. Nice to see you here. And, we're great and all, but there's a ton of fun that is happening on the other side of the screen. And that's in the chat. So we've said on here before, you might be missing half the show if you're not joining us live. And we're on live every morning at 7 a.m. in Makana. And that's where you can not only ask questions in real time, but also vote on what gets answered. And then I think the most fun part is see all of the other answers and all the other back and forth and conversation that goes on in the chat. It lets you be part of the community, connect with people. So officehours.global/join is the place to go. So all you do is go to officehours.global/join, sign up for the mailing list there. You'll get on the email. So see who's going to be on the panel every day, how to get into Discord, how to get into Makana, all the good stuff. Check it out. Next question.
From the QR code, Aunt Prue in Santa Rosa asks, I was previously on set for commercial set outdoors, no shade, bright sunny day. So many huge diffusers, expensive lights, reflectors, and other grip used, or even a crane to shape light and combat the sun. Is this cheaper than a virtual set / TheVolume?
Chris.
Here's my take on this, Ant. Have you ever heard the phrase, if the only tool you have as a hammer, everything looks like a nail. I think it's the way it goes. So I will tell you, in our industry, there are people that own a lot of equipment that doesn't get used enough. And sometimes production techniques are designed around the stuff that's in the warehouse. And it is very possible that somebody says, man, let's just get all their grip gear out there and use it. Whether or not it's cheaper, I mean, maybe they don't have access to a volume, and maybe it was the location not part of it. I mean, most of the time when you're shooting outdoors, it's because, we're on a vineyard, or we're in the mountains, or we're at the beach, think Baywatch or whatever. But a lot of times people use the stuff that they have, and, everything just looks like a nail, so get your hammer out. Alex?
That can oftentimes be the case, but I will say that as someone who's shot a lot of stuff outside, the sun is a huge problem. So that, like we have when there's no clouds in the sky, and even if the problem really is when there's some clouds in the sky is really what gets you in trouble, because now sometimes it's really bright, sometimes it's not bright. And so, what we end up doing oftentimes is we want to soften that light. So because the contrast is too much. So you're going to have a huge silk that goes across, like a 20 by 20 silk or a 10 by 10 silk that's designed to kind of diffuse the sun so that it's not these hard shadows everywhere that doesn't make very many people look good. Then you have to fill that in, and you have to fill and then the problem is there's so much exposure. Competing with the sun is a thing, right? It's got almost infinite light. so you have to figure out how you use your little lights to pull that out. And then the other thing we end up with is scrims and other things to darken the background so that it's not overexposed as well. And then you have to think about, well, if I soften this person, do I soften that? And there's a whole bunch of things, but none of these things ever feel natural. And the problem really is that when you look at video, it's really hard to, people think that they don't need all these things, but you watch a trailer that's done at low budget and you can immediately tell that it's low budget. Like you just see like the first 5 minutes or 8 minutes, or first 5 seconds, 8 seconds, 10 seconds. You watch that and you hear a couple things or whatever, and you won't know why. But my kids can look at it and immediately know that it's low budget film. Like it's a low budget. This is a low budget trailer, and those were all the people who didn't think they needed all that gear. So because it just doesn't look that way. It's a pretty subtle thing. And I have to admit, I hire. Whether I bring my brother in, whether I bring Brent By in, whether I bring some of the guys that do a lot of lighting for me, they have all these lights and everything, and it's like, I don't know if I would need all, because I'm like, how about we just have a bunch of big lights and call it a day? But when they get in there and they start putting all these lights in and it's the same thing that you were just talking about. It all looks crazy, but man, does it look good? And it's they're seeing something that you're not necessarily seeing, but you may feel. And that's the thing is that the audience, oftentimes you're not playing to what they're going to notice or what they're going to complain about. It's how they feel when they're looking at it. And the problem you're playing against is that, these big streamers like, Apple and others are spending $250,000 a minute, on what you're watching. And so, or more. And so they have and people are just used to watching that all the time. That's just TV. That's not even going out to the film, to the theater. So you have to compete to that to some degree, especially when you're doing commercials and you got budget. Then you definitely have to do that.
And it's going to a volume or an LED wall isn't a magic wand either. Like there's a whole other set of concerns that happen when you're going to power one of those.
There's a great. There is such a good video that I just watched on that on YouTube about, now I'm going to have to, I don't know if I'll be able to get to it fast enough, but there was it's called Why Movies Just Don't Feel Real or Don't Feel Real Anymore. So this is a video that I recommend. It's called, I can't get it to my screen right now. Why Movies Just Don't Feel Real Anymore. It's from Like Stories of Old. And let me pull this over. And it's just, and he goes into this incredible detail about, looking at all these different things and pointing out that like James Cameron has figured out how to make CG feel like the real thing. So he's really talking about the elements that are there. So, if you look at it, he's kind of breaking some of this down here and kind of going through different. It's a very meandering. It's 28 minutes, and I don't watch 28 minutes very long on YouTube. I watch the whole thing at 1x. so anyway, yeah, that good. So anyway, he's gotten 2.3 million views in 5 days. So I'm not the only one that's watching it. So check that out. It's called Why Movies Just Don't Feel Real Anymore, but that'll give you kind of a sense of that too.
Next question.
This one's from Zach Jeffers in Spokane, Washington. Suggestions for those with glasses trying to make small, close quarters office work with lighting for on camera, reflections of lights and screens, etc.
Alex?
So the biggest thing is that the angle of incidence equals angle of reflection. So if your glasses are here and your screen is, here, the thing you have to be careful of is, what angle is going to be hitting this that comes back and hit, or let's say that I guess the camera's up here. So it's really, what's going to hit and be a problem. And oftentimes it's the top if you have a curve. But the main thing is you got to pay attention to the angle of incidence equals angle of reflection.
So think about it like a pool shot.
Yeah, pool shot. But you think about that all the time. So when you're thinking about your reflections against glass and everything else, you look at where your light is and you go, oh, well, that's going to hit this thing. And you have to kind of think through that. Now, you can do things like using a polarized lens. You can put a polarized filter over top of your camera, and then you can polarize your lights, but your skin will change in its nature because it'll look different because there's stuff that's there that, usually it's not in a good way. It's not going to change. That does not improve the quality of your skin. So it's good for product shots. I wouldn't use it for people. And I did it on this show for my first 6 months or something like that until I just couldn't figure out why all these weird little pocks and everything else were showing up on my skin. And I was like, oh, because I was trying to avoid the same thing. So the main thing is that what I do is I'll move that light up as high as I can go until I start getting any kind of shadowing from my eyebrows. So I go up as high as I can there, and then have a big source. And then the other thing is having a lot of light means that you're overwhelming your monitors. And so you actually, if I have a low light and I gain up my camera, you'll see a lot more of my monitors. You'll see a little of them right now. But if I have a lot of light, that means I am closing down my camera, or I'm lowering the ISO or whatever I'm doing there. I'm going to bring that down, and then the monitors are not as noticeable. The other thing to look at there is that you want to be, of course, in dark mode. You should be in dark mode because light mode is evil. But it's actually bad for your eyes. Just in case you're wondering, it's actually bad for your eyes. The blue light coming out of a light white. There's a couple reasons that dark mode became a thing. One is because it takes up less battery for your mobile devices, and the other one is a thing called macular degeneration. And you should read about how screens with a lot of bright cause macular degeneration, and you should think about it right now. And if you're young, you should really think about not using light screens. But using dark mode will definitely improve that solution a lot.
And I know we talked about turning the lights up, but one more tip is don't forget your monitor. You can turn the brightness on your monitors down. So besides dark mode and all that, if you're still having little bright spots, it's the first day you're like, you feel sad. You're like, oh, but they were so bright and they looked so good before. But if it's, even if it was just for the Zoom meeting, you can make those as dark as, you can make them close to the bottom level of darkness, maybe about 25%, and still have, and still be able to read it. But again, it's not going to be that crisp, giant, bright image that you had before. So, have a different mode. Next question.
This question is from Roz Humphreys in Comox, British Columbia, Canada. I have a niche issue in Final Cut Pro 11.2 on Tahoe, Apple IT, AI, etc. applied. My voice isolation will not apply. Other audio effects will. Reinstalled all software. Best way to analyze plugins conflict.
All right. So Apple Intelligence on Tahoe 11.2. Chris, what do you think?
I don't think it's Tahoe's fault. I think it is a weird thing that happens with clips that have multiple audio channels, and I'm going to show you an example here. So here I have a clip, and I shouldn't be showing you this guy's face, but I have a video clip and it has several audio channels. And if I come over here and look at the audio tab, you could see I have a whole, oh shoot, I just showed his face. Anyway, so you could see I have many, many clips. And up here, I don't see the audio voice isolation thing. Here's the trick that I have found. Although you cannot put it on the whole clip, you can come down here and put it on a track. So I've select dialogue 1, and now voice isolation pops in. And I can turn it on there, and I can go in and do it on any channel or any track, I guess it is. I don't know if it's a channel or a track that needs to have the voice isolation. That may be the problem that you're having. I'd be very curious, send us a chat or something if that helps you. I hope that helps you.
You're muted.
My mute broke this morning. Now I'm not used to software mutes. If you have a lot of plugins that are plugged in or that are enabled, and you found that wiping it took the issue away, then you've probably isolated it down to an issue with one of those plugins. So unfortunately, you've got to bring them back in one by one if that's really what did it. But Chris is the pro. You got to try what he did first.
More than likely, it's this issue, and I don't know why it behaves that way, but that's the way it behaves, and it's not the end of the world. Just
you can ask questions 24/7 of us, of these wonderful panels, at askofficehours.global. That's askofficehours.global, and it's open 24/7. So you don't have to be logged into anything. You don't have to sign up for anything. Just go to askofficehours.global, put in your name, put in your question, and we'll start filtering those shows in on the regular weekday shows on Monday. Next question.
This question comes from Kyle Hammond in Chicago, Illinois. I'm in need of a new computer bag. Need it to be a backpack style. What would you recommend?
Alex.
It just depends on how big your computer is and whether it's only a computer bag or whether it's something that needs to carry a lot of other things. As I've said before on the show, my go-to bag is a Tactical 5.11 Rush 24 bag. And I take my laptop and my iPad, and there's a little area in the soft back area, and I just slide them in there. They're nice and protected, and it leaves the whole area in the front open. Now, I have a smaller laptop. I don't know if I could put a 15-inch laptop, in that back area. In the past, when I had a larger laptop, I would put it in neoprene and then just put it in the open space, and you can put, do a variety of things. It's just got so many, for me, as a general purpose backpack, I don't want to necessarily have a single purpose bag. As a general purpose backpack, I have just a big cavity that I can throw a lot of things in that's super durable. I've got webbing on the outside. I've got, it's a really versatile backpack, and I've taken it to every continent except for Antarctica. It's a long trip, but otherwise I've been everywhere with this backpack, and it works well. And I put my name on it. It's got the Velcro, so I can put my name on it, put logos on it and stuff like that.
Chris?
Yeah, Kyle, I would shy away from anything that is computer specific just because it, thieves recognize it and they go, oh, that's going to be a good catch if I can get this guy off guard and walk away with his backpack. The last few computer bags I bought were just backpacks that happened to have an extra slot, where you could put a computer. And I found, and it's going to be like less than a third the price. The computer specific bags are just ridiculously expensive. I think that my current bag I paid like $55 for, and I've had it for years. It's fine. Well,
if you do want to spend money on a bag, I recommend the stuff from Nomadic. They were at NAB this year. They actually have a lot of cool camera stuff, camera specific stuff now as well. But I have 2 or 3 of these bags. I have that travel pack in the upper left, and it doesn't scream computer bag. There's a large and a small one, but it has a dedicated pocket in the back that's just for the computer and then there's the big cavity that's in front of it. And if you get the bigger bag, you could even pack for an overnight in it if you had to. But I've had an earlier version of this bag for about 4 years, and the thing takes a beating. Oh, and the biggest thing that I look for in one of these bags is make sure that there is a rock solid pass through for the handle of your luggage. So they have it. It's kind of over here. It's very solid to where you can have it sit on top of your carry-on, so you don't have to carry it on your back the whole time. If you do a lot of, even if not even just air travel, but just travel in general, if you have to schlep stuff around and you have the ability to do that, it's a whole new world. Next question.
This one comes from Zach Jefferson, Spokane, Washington. While working with young adults that are helping out with productions, what advice do you have to help guide them in figuring out a career path in production and or identifying what they'd be good at? Alex.
Have them do lots of things, see which ones they're good at, and which ones they enjoy. I think that one of the things that I do, and when I've worked with, young adults and also kids, I start production training. Like I've done classes for it gets as young as 8. I find that kids that are 8 to 12 are actually just much easier to train than adults. So they actually get really good at it really fast. And they just listen to what you're saying and then they go do it, I found that to be relatively easy. But what you do is you have them play with a lot of things. You'll see what they're good at and what they have what they'll kind of lean into to do that, and they'll see what they want. And what you want to do is have a base requirement that they all do a little bit of everything. You've got to find things for them to do. One of the things that there's a broadcast class in my son's school. And so, what we're doing is, my son does all the live stuff because I think he's the only one that knows how to do it. So he does all the live, keying and everything else, but then they have other people out there shooting. And the idea is to, they all find the things that they're looking for. But the key is that, I'm starting to give them some feedback, because the key is that they need someone with an expert, broadcast background to give them feedback. What people like to do is they like to be good at things. So you have to find a way that you're going to give them feedback to be excellent at what they do, and so you got to either find people or be that person or whatever that comes from broadcast that can push them really hard. You think that you should go light because people are volunteering or they're just students, but what they enjoy is someone pushing so that they're excellent at it, because they love being excellent. Almost everybody loves being excellent at something, and they're willing to put a little more work into it. You have to be gentle about it. It's not like you have to hammer on people, but you want to be gentle and constantly pushing them towards that excellent edge, and they're going to have a lot more fun doing it. They're going to produce content that they're a lot more proud of, and they'll be more engaged in whatever they're doing.
Chris.
One of the things that I tell people, all good stuff, Alex. One of the things I tell people is, we talk about our career ladder, how you work your way up the ladder. You have to be careful that when you start I think of like an A-frame ladder, where it's wide at the bottom and it goes up and you start climbing up that ladder. But if you were in a room that had multiple ladders that are touching at the bottom and you start climbing one ladder, sometimes you realize, you know what? I don't want to be on this ladder. I'd rather be on that ladder over there. And the further you go up your ladder, the further you are from where you want to actually be. So one of the things I tell people is be careful that you start in the area and the field that you really do want to do. And yes, the best way to do that is to do a lot of it. And one of the things I tell people specifically about editing is it doesn't matter what you're editing, but edit something every day. Just repetition, repetition, repetition. This is how I make my coffee. This is the best way to make toast. If you don't put butter in every nook and cranny of the waffle, then you're a sociopath. Like edit something every single day, and you just get. It's true. Come on, CJ, you know that. There's 2 types of people that eat waffles. One that just, very carefully put the butter in every nook and cranny,
And
then
savages.
there's
I like
savages
to-
and sociopaths.
I like to fill every little square with maple syrup. Alex?
Yeah, the one thing that I would also recommend is finding things, whether it's the group that you're working with here or to push folks to do things for other people. Having a client, you want to edit a lot of things on your own, but having clients, at least for I would say almost all of the stuff that you do when you get started. When you think about we think about Da Vinci being this incredible, he didn't just sit there with ideas in his head. I mean, some of that stuff came out. The vast majority of what we see Da Vinci do was stuff he was paid to do for somebody else. Like someone asked, "Can you design this thing for me?" And then he would go, "Can you paint this thing for me?" And he'd paint that thing. It was work for hire. Like that's what he did, And so you have to, getting out there, because clients will ask you to do things that are uncomfortable. They don't know what's hard. They don't know what's not hard. And they'll go, "Well, what about this? And could you show this?" And suddenly you're adjusting to that, and you'll learn a lot faster doing it for other people. Like one of the things that I'm working on with my son is we're going to get him a camera rig and have him just go to local businesses saying, "We'll shoot a video for you." And at the very beginning, it'll be for free. And then it'll be for a little bit of money or coupons or whatever. And then it'll turn into real money. But it's the idea, though, is that what he needs to do is a lot of it, and just a lot of shooting and getting good at it. And that's but I think that's the thing you want to look at is, as Chris said, do a lot of whatever you're doing. But I would say, finding external clients, whether it's a nonprofit, your house of worship, your school, your community, find people that you can do this for. Because you'd also be surprised at how many doors that opens. We used to do this show called Local Wisdom. And we just go to businesses and say, "Hey, we want to shoot a video about you for an online thing. It doesn't cost you anything. We'll just do it." We were getting paid by the online network. And there were some of those places that I never had to pay to eat again ever. After I showed them the video, and I didn't ask for that. They just were like, every time I came in, they were like, "Oh, it's on us," and it was. So you just never know what's going to happen after you go down that path.
If you're finding office hours valuable, there are a couple ways that you can help. You can like and subscribe to our channel. We also have volunteer opportunities. If you go to officehours.global/volunteer, you can find out all about the things that you can do both during the live show, but also around it to help keep us organized moving forward. And finally, you can donate at officehours.global/donate. We are a nonprofit, and it's not free to run this. So we run 100% on the generosity of the audience, and we appreciate everybody that goes to officehours.global/donate and tells us what to think. Next question.
This question is coming in from Chuck Swan in Bristol, Wisconsin. Looking at cheap portable monitors for ATEM multiview for House of Worship stream volunteers. Lots of deals on Amazon. Any opinions on Arzopa at $68 or other options?
Go ahead, Alexander.
So you got to be careful because most computer monitors will only operate at a specific refresh rate, and typically that's going to be 60 hertz or maybe even a higher refresh rate. So a lot of the times when you plug that into an ATEM, it is not going to work unless the frame rate system setting is set to match what that monitor does. There's two monitors that I know a lot of people use, and I have some of them here. The Asus ProArt series are really, really awesome because they will work with all sorts of weird frame rates, including fractional frame rates. So like if you're working with like 2997, for example, it'll work just fine. The other ones that will work are the LG ultrafine monitors. And I know that there's a great video that was done by Doug Johnson on his channel, Doug Johnson Productions, earlier on in the year, where he compared a variety of different monitors that support these frame rates. And he actually tests every single frame rate to see if it would work with a camera switcher. So you may want to shop around and just be careful before you hit buy.
Alex?
Yeah, the main thing that I would say, I wouldn't get this. I mean, you might get it as a travel one, but I wouldn't get this as the volunteer one. I would probably think more about something like this. This is a Dell. It's about the same price. Or whoops, wrong button. Let's try this again. So this is the Dell. Here's a couple things that are important. It's got an HDMI input. It has, you can see a gap here for your VESA mount. And it's got a C13 input. I will not buy monitors without those three things. It has to have a VESA mount. It has to have a C13, so I'm not trying to figure out where that power supply is. Do not buy monitors with external power supplies. It is so annoying. Like you just need a C13 is something that you can, this is an EIC, a lot of people call it EIC cables, but all the cables are EIC cables. The type of EIC cable is a C13. And so that's the typical one that you see going into computers and everything else. It's this one here. You do not buy a monitor that doesn't have that. Ask me how I know. Like I have lots of monitors floating around. Like, where did the power supply go for this thing? And so you want a VESA mount because I put everything on arms. You can have it sit on your desk, but if you have a VESA mount, it means that you can put it on an arm. And these Hawaii, arms or whatever are like $70 to hold 2 monitors that'll just flat. And that's what I have here, and you can then move them around. It's not particularly expensive. This one is this was $119, but there's Dell ones that are $79, $89. Most of the ones that I have here are all $89, $79. They're not. I don't spend a lot of money on monitors unless I'm going to buy a color correct monitor. So anyway, and I find that those all of these Dells that I've used so far will definitely do up to 60 frames. I mean, you do want to look at if it has a 60 frame refresh rate, but this one, for instance, the one I just showed you is 100. So you shouldn't need more than 60.
And after a while, you end up you go into the big bin of cables, and then you look at all those IEC C13s, and you're like, how many could I have possibly amassed in my lifetime? But that's the thing, is that they're available. They're so ubiquitous. If you need one,
and the thing is that they cost nothing. You go to Monoprice and you can buy them for $2 each. So if you need to buy 10 extras or short ones or long ones, it's all cheap. You go to another country and all these monitors, just about all of them, you have to check it, but almost all of them are 110 to 240. So what you can do is you just go to a local hardware store and you go buy the EIC cable for Austria or London or whatever, and plug it into the monitor that you have. It just makes things much simpler.
Alexander?
I just wanted to jump onto that because I agree with Alex. And one of the most frustrating things is when you start VESA, like if you buy a lot of monitors, like many of us on the panel have a lot of monitors mounted on VESA arms, the nightmare of trying to mount monitors on a VESA arm with a external power brick is so bad. It is so bad. So I agree with
the cable length that always ends up that the big chunky block is like right in the middle of where the cable management is. It's crazy.
And
next
Mickey,
question.
It's IEC. I said EIC, but that's engineer in charge. So that's different. EIC and IEC are two different things.
The EIC knows where the IEC.
But I literally, if
thing.
you just say hand me an IEC cable, I make a bunch of judgments about you because it's like it's not an IEC cable. It's a C13 because there's C15s, there's C14s, there's all these other ones. It's like be precise. That's all I'm saying.
Trust me, you don't want Alex to judge you.
I don't do it out loud. I just go, okay.
I know.
Next question.
This one's from Kenny Hampton in Greenville, Illinois. With YouTube, if your video is recorded in 1080p, is there any benefit to upscaling to 1440p or 4K before uploading?
Chris.
Kenny, I see your question and I raise a better question, and specifically to Alex. So Alex, I recently had somebody complain about an old video that I had posted. Coincidentally, it was the compilation reel of the Amy Bradley footage that I recorded on that cruise ship. And they said that I should re-upload it. And the reason they said is that YouTube was penalizing older standard def videos and lowering the bit rate that they were sharing the files for. And I was wondering if you knew anything about this, and therefore, he even said, this guy on the YouTube comments said, upscale it to HD, re-upload it, they won't spank the bit rate as much.
Alex.
You know if there's any truth to that?
My understanding is that it's not that they're penalizing you.
I knew you would know.
They're not penalizing you for putting lower res up, but they are putting extra love into the ones that are higher res. So don't think of it as taking something away. Think of it as adding something. So there are so if you upload something that is low resolution, they will compress it more because they don't think they'll compress it the way they always compressed it. So it's not that they made it less. It's just that it had a certain compression when it was, 10 years ago, and they haven't made it any better because who cares, right?
They're using the same technology that I had available to me when I made this old video.
Exactly. And then, but if you do 1080p, I think it's a little higher. If you do 4K or anything over 1080p, it is definitely less compressed because you're putting more effort into it. And so if they gave that level of effort to everything that was uploaded, it would literally change the usage of the internet by 5 or 10%. Like, it's not just that they're doing it to you. They're saying if everybody, it's like with a good example is Zoom. If they gave 1080p to everybody who joined Zoom, it would probably change the usage of the internet by a couple percentage points. And so what they do is you get 360 when you show up, and if you don't notice, there you go. There's a couple notches up, but giving it to everyone who can't notice doesn't make it. It actually damages. I had this conversation with someone who works at not at YouTube, somewhere else, and they figured out how to make the compression more efficient on another social platform, and it dropped the usage of the internet by 5%. Like it's that kind of numbers. You have to think about the scale at which these companies are working at, and when they make little changes, it makes a big difference. And so if you're not putting up high res, they're not going to make it as much bits per second because they figure you can't notice because you're putting.
So to go back to Kenny's question, there may be some advantage to doing it.
I think you should do it and come back and talk to us about it. So here's what I would do. If you send me the footage, I'll put it through Topaz and I'll bump it up. So I won't just scale it up. Here's what we should do. We should have you. No, here I got it. So you should upload it. You should send it to me. And then what we should do is run it through a compressor and just say, make it bigger. Like just have a compressor make it bigger. Then we should run it through Topaz and say, make it bigger and great. And then put it up and then see what happens, see what the three look like on your channel.
Right. 1080, 1440, 4K. Yeah. And then
I would just do 4K. I would just go up to 4K or 1080p and 4K. 1440 and 4K are going to be the same. It's 1080 and the 1440 doesn't matter. It's over 1080p. So 1080p and 2160p, those two is what we should do it at and see what happens. The 1440 will be treated the same as the 4K.
Right. I was under the understanding the 1440 was the inflection point when I was doing a test. Like
1081.
Real? Okay.
Wow. And so, Kenny, on behalf of the entire panel, we would like to say to you, you're welcome.
And with that, you're welcome. I'll also say thank you. Thank you so much to the panel for coming in today. It was a fun Friday. We had a lot of laughs, which is always good. But we also got smarter, and isn't that great? Getting smarter with us was our great producing team, asking all these questions, sending us down these rabbit trails. We appreciate it. If we didn't get to your question today and you asked it via the QR code, we'll start to get those in on Monday. And then if you asked it in Makana, it'll be back in your notes. Finally, thank you to the back-end team who's organizational, engineering, and just all-around caring about what they do efforts, because that's rare these days. But we've got that, and they support us, and we really appreciate you're the foundation of what we do. One more quick announcement for you all. The Zoom Graphics Toolkit, again, just as a reminder, is going to be today, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. So if you go to officehours.global/ZoomLab, that'll be where you can get the Zoom link. So officehours.global/ZoomLab if you'd like to hang out with Jonathan Cocatillo, Andy Carluccio, and our own Alex Lindsay. So all traversal today, had we gone around in person and asked all these questions, we would have traveled 24,000 miles. It's about 39,000 kilometers and 191 million bananas for scale. All right, we'll see you in after hours.
See you, everybody. I'm off to talk to my better health counselor.
Have fun.
Alex, was that in DC? That red camera?
No.
Really?
That was in my office in
Market Street.
years ago, Market Street. Yeah.
The white semicircular window had a very neoclassical feel.
It was funny.
So
it was
kind of fit with the architecture.
There was an architecture firm down below us. We'd all look down at them. I think they hated it. Because when we were talking on the phone, we'd just be looking at them all, like drawing, doing their thing, and everything else. And we had Panic at the Disco.
Oh, nice.
We shot video for their concert tour, for the screen behind them. And they came in with a full drum set, and and we said we had to wait, and then they went off, and the landlord came and said, "You can't ever do that again." Like we